This is Tim McCall with CTV News here in Laramie, Wyoming. Sports Authority Field at Mile High Stadium. We're here in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Thanks for tuning in to CTV Sports. I'm Sydney Wicker.
Hello Rams and welcome back. I am Tim McCall, joined here by Sydney Wicker, and we are eager to keep you updated with all the most recent happenings in the world of Rams sports. Let's get started. The CSU men's basketball team was dealt a tough 80-65 loss at the hands of the New Mexico Lobos on Saturday. The contest marked the Rams' first game without their two leading scorers, Prentice Nixon and J.D. Page, who will both be missing extended time with injuries. Nixon is dealing with a high ankle sprain and has missed the last few games. Page broke his hand in last Thursday's contest and will also miss an extended amount of time. The two star guards have averaged a combined 28 points per game this season, and the Rams will surely need to adjust their game plan going forward. The adjustment will feature growing pains, as evident by the Rams' season-high 23 turnovers in Saturday's loss. The loss dropped the Rams to 10-13 on the season and 3-7 in Mountain West play. The slate doesn't get any easier for the Rams, who will prepare for the annual border war against the Wyoming Cowboys this Wednesday. The game will take place in Moby Arena and will tip off at 7 p.m. The Rams will wear their highly anticipated State Pride uniforms for the matchup. Don't miss the Rams as they try to bounce back versus the Cowboys. Later on in the show, I will be joined by CSU men's basketball reporter Bryan Buck to discuss the severity of the J.D. Page injury and what it means for the Rams moving forward.
In other basketball news from this weekend, the CSU women's basketball team brought home a victory in overtime against New Mexico on Saturday during their State Pride uniform debut. Throughout the whole game, the two teams battled back and forth. Going into the half, the Rams were down 29-33. But as they came out of the locker room, they were fired up and ready to play. The Rams regained their lead in the fourth quarter, but New Mexico was able to bring the game to a tie, which led the Rams into overtime. In the overtime, New Mexico took the lead by scoring two back-to-back two-pointers, but the Rams were able to score 7 unanswered points, and senior Hannah Traverti scored the game-winning three-pointer, giving CSU the victory 74-71. The game was highlighted by Hannah Traverti, who scored 16 points, and Veronica Merkovic, who had scored 15 total points and her first career double-double. In the press conference, Coach Ryan Williams talked about how crazy the crowd was for the game.
How about our crowd today? Yeah, I mean, they showed up and they were loud. They were loud right when we needed them. We had some big moments throughout that basketball game. They were really good in the second quarter when we needed them. That fourth quarter, but that overtime was special, and I think that's what playing at home is all about. You've got to feed off of your crowd, and I think our kids did a nice job of providing them the energy and something to cheer for. The playmaking that our kids had throughout that basketball game, I think made it an entertaining game for the fans. So. One lady just walked up the ramp and she had oxygen, and she said she needs to go refill her tank. So it must have been exciting.
Hannah Traverti also spoke after the game regarding her mindset during her clutch overtime three-pointer.
But still, it came down to getting stops, especially when we got down 5 in overtime. We really had to dig in and getting stops and then converting on the offensive end. That's how we got that.
Take us through the game-winning three-pointer there.
I literally just didn't think I just shot it. Yeah.
The Lady Rams play next on Wednesday at Laramie, where they will take on Wyoming.
The CSU indoor track season began this weekend at the Air Force Invitational. The most anticipated athlete on the team, shot putter Mustafa Hassan, did not disappoint. The senior's indoor season debut saw him hurl the best shot put of the day with a throw of 64 feet and 2 inches. The throw was not only good enough to win the event, but was also the 4th best throw in the nation, as well as the best throw in Mountain West play. Additionally, CSU shot putters Austin and Alex Blejo finished 2nd and 3rd in the event, allowing the Rams to go 1, 2, and 3 at the podium. After the meet, CSU head coach Bryan Buck stated that he was happy with the way that his shot putters performed, but he still looked for improvement, especially from his star, Mustafa Hassan. Bedard stated, "Mustafa didn't throw great for him. He was pretty inconsistent, but we were looking for 19.5 to 20 meters as a starting point for him, and he threw 19.55 meters. We just need to get back to some consistent training and get him settled down." Although there is plenty of room for improvement, Bedard and the Rams should be happy with the way that their season started. Next up for the Rams will be the CU Open that will take place this Thursday to Saturday. Don't forget to check out the Rocky Mountain Collegiate to see if Mustafa Hassan is able to toss a record-breaking throw in Boulder.
The CSU women's swimming and diving team advanced their season to 8-3 this Friday as they beat Air Force Academy at home. CSU was able to win all 3 events for the day. Senior Colleen Olson, who was coming off of a serious hip injury, started in her final career meet at home where she won both the 100 and 200 freestyle events. These were her first 2 wins of the season, but it was a great comeback for her, and it helped give her and the team more momentum. CSU head coach Woody Woodar said, "When Colleen succeeds, the team is really happy for her because they know how hard she works." Colleen was one of the 6 Rams to take first in the events for the day. With the Rams being on one of their best winning streaks in a while, they look to prepare for the Mountain West Championship in San Antonio from February 14th to February 17th. But first, the Rams will look to take on Wyoming this weekend. Over the weekend, the CSU women's tennis team traveled to Wisconsin where they scored 5 single victories and won the doubles point for a win in Milwaukee. The Rams' #1 duo, Alyssa Gervala and Priscilla Palermino, won 6-2 in their match, giving the Rams one of their first victories for the weekend. The Rams will prepare for another busy weekend of traveling to advance their season as they head to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on Nebraska on Friday and to Ypsilanti, Michigan to take on Eastern Michigan on Saturday.
That's all we have for sports updates for right now, but don't go anywhere because when we get back from break, I'll be joined by CSU men's basketball reporter Bryan Buck to discuss what the J.D. Page injury means for the Rams going forward.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back. I am now joined by CSU men's basketball reporter Bryan Buck. And he's followed this team closely all season, and we're going to talk a little bit. Last week we talked about the loss of Prentice Nixon and what it meant for the team, and the news didn't get any better this week as their second leading scorer, J.D. Page, broke his hand and will also be missing significant time. Bryan, what does losing J.D. Page now mean for the Rams' offense and defense for the rest of the season?
The biggest thing for them is it means they lose an experienced ball handler. J.D. Page and Prentice Nixon are the 2 guys that are upperclassmen on the team that have experience bringing the ball up the basketball court. And while they do have some upperclassmen still available on this team that aren't injured, like Che Bob, none of them have experience taking the ball up the court. None of them have experience handling the ball the entire game. And we saw that against New Mexico when they had, as you said earlier, a season-high 23 turnovers. And I don't expect that number to reduce greatly going forward, which is going to be really tough for this basketball team. You have like Nico Carvacho on the inside who's going to play well, and he has been playing well. 12.5 boards a game in Mountain West play, 10.5 points too. But it's tough to get him the ball. It's tough for him to continue what he's doing when there's nobody that's able to move the ball effectively on the perimeter. And that's been a big problem for this basketball team all season long, is continued effective scoring and ball movement. And that just gets harder for this basketball team.
I think what we're going to see is they're going to struggle to get the ball close to the basket. It's going to become a lot more important for the Rams to have a good shot selection. As you say, they turned the ball over 23 times this Saturday. They're definitely going to need to start taking care of the ball better and controlling it better. And I think that with what you just said with Nico Carvacho, it's going to start with feeding the guys in the low post. That's where your high percentage opportunities come, and I think that's where they're going to need to get the ball if they're going to want to succeed without their two best scorers on the offensive end. Now on the defensive end, as you talked about, these guys are both upperclassmen. I think they bring a lot of experience to the defensive end, and I think that they're going to be missing that a lot. Do you see the defensive game plan changing at all for the Rams going forward without Nixon and J.D. Page in the lineup?
The defensive game plan, I think, is going to have to adapt to how they play teams coming up, because what we've seen the past few weeks is that the way to beat the Rams is by shooting a lot of three-point baskets. You don't need to make a lot of them. Air Force made only 31% of their threes, but they still made 13 of them, including 10 of them in the second half, and that was big for Air Force. They need to figure out a way to adapt and play some better perimeter defense, because right now, like I said earlier, Nico Carvacho is playing great on the inside. Deion James has stepped up in conference play as well, doing nice for himself on the inside, but these guys on the outside need to step up and be able to guard some three-point shots, because teams like Air Force, New Mexico, San Diego State, they're just throwing up threes all day long, and they don't necessarily care if they go in all the time, because they know that enough of them are going to go in.
Now, Nixon was the leading scorer for the Rams. He was averaging about 18 points a game. J.D. Page, second leading scorer, he was averaging over 10 points per game. Where is the outside shooting? Where is the wing play going to come from on the offensive end now that these two guys are out?
Well, we know Anthony Bonner has been a great shooter this year. 46% from three, 47% from the field. He's been efficient. He just hasn't had the high volume. He's a quiet guy, and he's a guy who, in a lot of post-game press conferences this year, the word confidence has been used. Confidence has been growing for him. We've also seen Raquan Mitchell, after the loss of Prentice Nixon, he's been taking more shots. I think those two guys are going to be the biggest output from wing players for them. But Bonner, as I said a minute ago, hasn't had a lot of volume. And Raquan Mitchell isn't the best outside shooter. He's more of a dribble drive kind of guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how they move the ball and how they keep space on the inside for guys like Nico Carvacho and Deion James to be able to move around and work on the inside.
Now, it's always tough when you do lose two players, especially when they're upperclassmen, and especially when they are as good as Prentice Nixon and J.D. Page. But if there is a silver lining in it, like you said, guys like Bonner, they're going to be getting extra experience, and I think that's really going to be valuable for this program moving forward in the future.
It is.
Now, that's all we have for right now, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by members of the Rocky Mountain Student Media in the FOCO Sports Show to talk about some of the most recent sports news.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
You are listening to 90.5 KCSU Fort Collins with DJ Meanbeat,
DJ Nightshade, DJ Wildcard. Music to me is
one of the best creative outlets that I can think of.
An escape from the real world.
Music to me is an expression of love.
Go from like folk to hip hop to like classic rock, 1960s bossa nova. With music, there's like no boundaries.
I work here because I love music, and you do too.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream, that I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly, just to come back in a new disguise and be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream, that I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly, just to come back in a new disguise and be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
Hello and welcome back to the FOCO Sports Show. I am your host, Tim McCall, and I'm joined here by a couple members of the Rocky Mountain Student Media. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I'm Nick Baker, and I'm from KCSU Radio.
And I'm Javon Harris, and I'm from the Collegian.
I'm Bryan Buck, also from KCSU Radio.
So, all right, boys, we're going to get started today. We're going to talk a little bit close to home, the Fort Collins area, Denver, Colorado. We're going to start with basketball, and we're going to be talking about the Nuggets. Right now, as it sits, they are 26-23. They're sitting at the number 8 seed in the West. It seems to me like a lot of people in the city of Denver and just in the general area are really hyped up about the Nuggets and are thinking that this team is a program on the rise. What do you guys take out of that? Is it right or is it wrong?
Well, why wouldn't you be excited? They're the 8th seed without Paul Millsap, their big fish signing. And what really excites me about the Nuggets is their entire roster isn't one way defensive or one way offensive. Each one can take you down, they can score. Each one can guard you well. Their premier players, Gary Harris and Paul Millsap, are both superb two-way players, and I really like that in a team. There's no weak point. When you need offense, you got offense. When you need defense, you got defense.
Yeah, and I like exactly what you said. I think I like what the Nuggets have been doing. Yeah. If you're a Denver Nuggets fan, you look at it this way: we're in the playoffs. Yeah, that's good. But if you're a Denver Nuggets player or coach, it's not good enough right now. In the tough Western Conference, they're at the 8th seed right now. But with Boogie Cousins going down, New Orleans is at the 6th spot. I see Denver trying to make a run to that 6th spot because if you're in the Western Conference, you don't want the 7th or 8th seed. No. You don't want to see Golden State or Houston in the first round. No. We know that's what's going to happen with that. So it's not enough for me if I'm on the Nuggets to just make the playoffs. You know, I'd actually want to do something in the playoffs. And I think once they get Paul Millsap back, you add him with Jokic, how well Jamal Murray's been playing.
Jokic has been playing out of his mind.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be fine. And of course, Denver has always been a tough place to play because a lot of people can't breathe here of the altitude. So. We'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm not a Denver Nuggets fan, but, I mean, it's kind of hype to see them back in the playoffs.
It is.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Boogie Cousins injury and how that's going to help them move up. I think something that happened earlier today is going to help them move up a lot too, and that's the trade of Blake Griffin from the Clippers to the Pistons. The Clippers are right behind the Nuggets right now. They're nipping at their heels. Without Blake Griffin, they become a team that's really not looking to make the playoffs. It's a team that's probably going to trade more pieces later in the season as we get closer to the trade deadline. And it's a team that's probably not going to be close to that 8 seed spot, not going to be fighting that battle later on in the season.
No chance.
That makes the Western Conference really black and white. You've got the teams that are going to be in the playoffs and the teams that probably aren't going to be in the playoffs. I think that makes it a lot easier for the Nuggets to make a nice push forward. Once they get Paul Millsap back, they can start working their way up from an 8 seed right now to into that 6 seed spot where they might get a nice matchup against a team like the Spurs who without Kawhi Leonard, you've got a lot of teams in the middle right there, OKC, who we're not entirely, they're playing well, but we're still not entirely sure what
someone
they
you
are.
can knock off.
Yeah,
there's a possibility for them to do it, and I really like their matchup against a lot of teams because the way they play defense.
Yeah, exactly.
The big thing for them, though, I want to see someone step up as a premier player. Right now, Jokic, Murray have been good, and they've set themselves apart as kind of the two leaders of the team. But they haven't been enough to win a series for me. And usually when you're going to win a playoff series, you need one guy to kind of set the tone. One of them is going to need to become one of those guys in the next 30 or 40 games.
And we saw that with the Raptors a couple of years ago, that there just wasn't enough star power there to get you through the playoffs. Yeah, exactly. You need someone that you can lean on. And, you know, Jokic and Murray are great, but they're both kind of A-minuses, and they don't have experience.
I'd like to see Denver make a trade for someone who's a ball scorer. And when we talk, I just mentioned the Clippers and them trading Blake Griffin. Lou Williams is probably also going to be on the trading block. If they trade for Lou Williams, not saying they will, but that's the kind of move that would set them above.
That's very true.
Then they'd be a really scary team in the West.
Their bench would come up tremendously the way he's been playing. He's been playing crazy.
When Wilson Chandler starting at 3 is where you'd make that upgrade, and that's where a lot of those big name scorers come from, is the 3 spot.
And you still have the flexibility to do that. You know, Jokic was picked in the second round. He's still on that rookie scale contract, which means he's still very cheap. You got a guy like Jamal Murray, who's probably going to be a building block going forward. Still very cheap. And, you know, the thing a lot of people are telling me about Jamal Murray is, hey, you know, this guy has Steph Curry potential. You know, he shoots the lights out. Now, I'm not sure I believe that. He's only a 42.5% shooter over his career. And he shoots 35% from behind the arc. But the guy's only 20 years old, and he's showing me that he's not afraid to shoot the ball. He's shooting with lots of confidence, playing with lots of confidence. And I think for a young guy, that really means a lot for this franchise moving forward.
When they've got a piece to move, Kenneth Faried is kind of obsolete now. You know, they've got Plumlee. Lyles has really rose up into his role. And then, you know, Paul Millsap coming back. Kenneth Faried's expendable.
Yeah, that's
Faried's had healthy, did not play games this year.
Yeah, a
couple of them, yeah.
Like more than 10.
And when Paul Millsap comes back, he's going to have even more. Faried's a very movable piece.
You could get somebody. You could get somebody, at least
he's young.
Yeah, exactly. You can get somebody better than, I don't know, they're playing like Torrey Craig, you know what I'm talking about?
Right.
You can get somebody better than that for their bench.
You're right.
Now we're going to stay in the Fort Collins area, but we're going to switch sports. We're going to talk football instead of basketball. The Senior Bowl just ended, and two guys who are close to Fort Collins made headlines and were pretty big news. Obviously, Michael Gallup, CSU's wide receiver, that wound up coming in second in the Biletnikoff Award. But also, Wyoming's quarterback Josh Allen, who CSU wound up seeing and wound up feeling the wrath of during the season. Both of those guys have been making headlines throughout the Senior Bowl. Now, based on what you guys saw and the homework that you did, do you think that these guys improved their stock during the Senior Bowl?
I like what Gallup did, but I'm really cautious about Josh Allen.
You have to be.
Not because of anything he did necessarily, but because of the guy standing right next to him all week long. Baker Mayfield looked better. Josh Allen didn't look bad. He didn't make bad throws. He didn't make bad decisions. He had a couple throws during the game where he really showed off his arm. He had a nice 15-yard scramble that he got downfield with and used his big frame to make some yards on the ground. But Baker Mayfield just looked better in practice. He was commanding the offense better. He was making better throws. He was showing that he has that quick thought, quick twitch potential in the quarterback position to move around. Compared himself really nicely to guys of his stature like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. And Josh Allen didn't necessarily hurt himself, but Baker Mayfield looked better than Josh Allen. And that's probably going to hinder Allen going forward.
Yeah.
Now, I will say with Michael Gallup, the thing that stood out to me all season, not just in this Senior Bowl, I mean, obviously he runs very crisp routes, but we've seen that before with Rashad Higgins. But what we haven't seen is Michael Gallup's size. You know, this is a guy who has not just NFL talent, but NFL-sized calves, NFL-sized forearms. This is a guy who is hard to bring down after the catch and is going to be very difficult to cover when a guy in that size body is moving that fast.
And if you've seen some of the videos on Twitter, Baker Mayfield was making wonderful throws to him. Josh Allen threw him a couple throws, which was such a sight to see. But
now, granted, you don't see a lot of low lights come out of the Senior Bowl, but he seemed to be catching everything that was thrown in his direction.
The big thing he was catching, too, was a lot of fade routes to the post. It seemed
That's
like
what you
I saw
want from his
15 or
size.
20 videos of him beating his man in press coverage and then almost boxing him out on the go route, where he was just going to take the jump ball and he was going to let it settle it in. And the guy who he had just beat at the corner position was not going to catch him, was not going to get around him, was not going to be able to knock the ball down. He really bodied out that position. I think he settled himself as a great red zone threat in the NFL, and he improved his draft stock a lot.
Either Michael Gallup is going to catch the ball or nobody is going to catch the ball.
Pretty much.
And I think that's where he is most valuable. Now we're going to stick on to football. We're going to move on a little bit. The big game is coming up this weekend, and it wouldn't be a sports show if we didn't make our own predictions. So we got Patriots and Eagles. What do you guys think? How's it going to go?
Well, so I almost have to root for the Eagles because at KCSU we have a bet every year. We draft at the beginning of the season who's going to win the Super Bowl. We pick teams we don't think are going to win the Super Bowl. I had the last pick, so I got stuck with the Patriots. So I'm going to have to shave my head should the Patriots win. So I'm rooting Eagles.
You've already done it once last year.
I've already done it once, and you know, next week you might see me both.
What's your final score prediction?
You know, it's going to be close if the Eagles are going to do it. They're going to have to get up early and you know, kind of like the Jags, but a couple more stops towards the end.
Kind of like the Falcons, except a little bit better than last year.
Slow the comeback by the Patriots just enough. It's going to have to be a 24-21, a 3-point kind of game, and it's going to be low scoring.
Yeah, well, as much as I like your hair right now, I would just love to see it go bald.
It is an interesting one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going with, you can never bet against Tom Brady.
No, you can't.
I mean, come on. Any team Tom Brady has been on with these Patriots, you can't count them out. I'm looking forward. I think a 27-24 game will be much more easier to watch, more competitive, but at the end of the day, you got number 12 back there, so. You know,
and then, Brian, we're running out of time, but let me get a quick prediction from you.
I think it depends on where Gronk is.
Yeah.
If Gronk's healthy, Patriots are going to win because the Eagles don't have a matchup for him. But if Gronk's not healthy, it's going to be the Eagles all the way. That defense has been scary this year.
We're going to see a bald one right here.
Hey, well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be 34-31 Eagles, Gronk or no Gronk, all right? Unfortunately, that's all we have, all the time we have for tonight. Join us next week on the FOCO Sports Show when we bring you more sports news. Have a great night, everyone.